This morning, actually, I made a decision just to go for English. I thought that with all the programmatic themes and words in English in that particular topic and my Argentinian slang, I was going to leave you completely confused. So here we go. I chose to speak about past, present, and future of programmatic. When Schibsted approached me and said, hey, would you like to talk about this topic? I said, that's an offer impossible to refuse, as it's one of my recent passions. And I say recent passion because I joined AppNexus and the programmatic world about 15 months ago now, from the telecoms industry. I spent there for 12 years, and you would say, oh, an obvious transition to programmatic. Not really, but a very fascinating one. So I would love to share with you my process through becoming more knowledgeable, and my remit currently is to help our premium publishers in Europe how to run very successful businesses on programmatic. So Schibsted is one of them. We have a very strong partnership today where we help them run the programmatic business in Norway and Sweden, and also some of the sites that you see here, Segunda Mano and InfoJobs. So very exciting times. And I would love to walk you through what programmatic was not too long ago and what it is today. Put some thoughts in your head. I spend a lot of time trying to understand what programmatic is, what the mechanics are, so the what of the equation. So after a few months doing deep research on that, I said, well, how is this all relevant? Why is it important for my clients? Why is it important for the industry? And how do I help them, or what do they need to do to get ready for it? So let's talk a little bit about that. We did an interesting research that I will share with you in a few slides. And then I'd like to close the presentation with the future. How does the future look like in programmatic, and a few things that you would probably need to start thinking about. So here we go. Let's talk about traditional advertising to begin with and set the scene. So the way it traditionally works, you have a pre-agreed price for a particular bundle of inventory that the buyer would agree to buy. So that works well in many ways, but there are a few challenges that bother some of us. So for instance, price, how is it defined? How does it evolve? What does it represent? What is a fair price? I mentioned a bundle of inventory. So you're buying a group of impressions, but what are those impressions? Can I pick and choose? Not really with the traditional tools. What is the optimization mechanisms that we're using here? So all these questions I'm sure that you ask yourself, and I wonder there has to be another way. There has to be a better way of leveraging that partnership that sellers and buyers bring to the table and provide the tools that would allow them both to get things for a fair price and sell and monetize their inventory at the right price as well. So what else is there? So we have different impressions, but not all of them are equal. So forget about the bundles. What if I want to make my choices impression by impression? We need to understand who is behind that box of advertising that we have in a web page. And in order to know more about who's behind it, we need something crucial, which is data. So the more I know about my user, the more informed decisions I'm going to make. And if I have access to that, then I want to be able to choose what inventory I'm going to have access to. For a moment, I'd like to walk you through the very basic elements of what we call real-time bidding. In very simple words, the way it works, all of us spend a lot of time on the web, browsing around, getting information, reading the news, maybe shopping, and we find constantly these boxes that normally are populated with advertisements. How does it work in a real-time way? Well, AppNexus, for instance, is a platform that allows thousands of publishers daily and real-time to bid for that particular space to reach you, that specific user that is interested in or could be potentially interested on the product that I want to advertise. Whoever bids more money for that box is going to win that auction, and the ad is going to show up on that screen. All this magic happens in less than 100 milliseconds. And in AppNexus today, we're the single first independent ad tech company with headquarters in New York, different data centers throughout the world. Here in Europe, we have Frankfurt and Amsterdam, where we're able to support this magic in real time. I mentioned a few times already the word data. And I can't stress enough the importance of data in all this ecosystem. So luckily for us today, we have Eduardo, there you are, from Schibsted, who's going to enlighten us about the power of big data. There is a lot that's being said out there about this ocean of information that's right there. And as I said before, the more you know about your user, the better your decisions are going to be about your campaign. So you need to understand this data, and it could be very overwhelming. So think about traditional advertising. They pretty much don't have many tools today to be able to make sense of this ocean of data. But with programmatic, you can. You can really get so granular that it's very, very powerful for your business success. Our suggestion when we start talking about data is always start small, concentrate on what's relevant for your audience, leverage your CRM systems, level your retargeting tools, and then grow big from there. So that way you make the puzzle a little bit more manageable. The next important step is how to find that little guy in the middle. So we have a lot of us in the world, and how we're going to ensure that we're reaching that right audience. There are multiple ways of doing this. In general, everything is linked to data and how we manage that data, and Programmatic can give you tools to be able to find that guy. In the world that we live today, where everything is real time, we're constantly online, we're constantly getting information, reading about things different times of the day. If you as an advertiser, as a marketer, are not able to reach that audience at the right time with the right content, somebody else will. So you need to be ready, and we're going to talk about how to get ready for that. So hopefully, with those few introductions, you have now a little bit of a perspective of how programmatic works and how platforms like AppNexus can help you make sense of this ecosystem. So what are the problems that RTB is trying to solve here? First of all, better targeting. Find that audience, find that user, understand what is important for them. Geo-targeting, time of day, interest, gender, all that, you can really get super, super granular. The other thing that brings to the table is efficiencies. So a lot of the work in traditional advertising is done manually. IOs, negotiations, paperwork. A lot of people spend a lot of time on tasks, simple tasks that can be automatized and simplified. So that's what Programmatic is going to help you with. It's proven by now, that's why Programmatic is growing so fast, that it really brings improved performance to your business. So campaigns are executed much more efficiently and monetized better when you use tools like Programmatic. This one I really like, full control. You own your own business. You know what you're doing. You are very competent on your core strengths. So with tools like with programmatic advertising, you can forget about the day in, day out of execution of your strategies while you spend time on what your business is all about. You know, analytics, brand, being creative, reaching that audience. And lastly, transparency. This is something that in traditional negotiations sometimes is misled or misplaced. And with tools like real-time bidding, for instance, both buyers and sellers are able to have a transparent negotiation about what they're willing to offer and what the other party is willing to pay for it based on their needs. So this is a key element of how programmatic is also growing so fast, because those dialogues are much more open. Good. And just to give an example of how everything I just said actually works in action, we have a very good partner called YY, who actually built their solution and the application on top of AppNexus, who specializes on following the journey of a user through different screens. So they have a solution that monitors what's happening on the TV, in this case, advertising the i10 by Hyundai. And when that user moves to their mobile phone, which inevitably will happen because we constantly multitask in this real-time era, that advertising is going to continue, that message is going to continue in the mobile phone. And the beauty of it as well is when that same user moves onto a tablet or a desktop, you're able with tools like this to actually do a homepage takeover with this particular car, showing in a beautiful video, stressing the message of this is exactly what you need right now. So that's all about the what programmatic is, the mechanics, how it works. This is very important, very nice to know, but why do you need to pay attention to these things? How is it relevant for you? How is it going to help your business? And how are you going to get ready for it? So in partnership with IAB Europe, the work and High Media, we conducted a study at the beginning of this year in Europe with more than 600 responses, where we wanted just to help everybody involved understand why everything is becoming so relevant and important. I'm going to be referencing to the generic study that we did for Europe, but also highlight a few elements about Southern Europe. When I say Southern Europe, I'm talking about Spain, Portugal, and Italy. And in Spain alone, we have more than 100 respondents. So there's quite a strong presence and opinions from the local market. So all the people that participated, just to give you a perspective, they manage around 3 billion euros of spend a year. For those interested in the report, actually, we have the European one was launched and distributed by AAB around July timeframe, and the Southern European one is going to be available in about 2 weeks. We're just tweaking a few things and making it look very pretty. So if we look at the first graph, the question here was, what are the important factors to have a very successful campaign? And it was interesting to see how targeting and budget actually are opposed to each other in a fascinating way. A few years back, probably you would have seen budgets being at top of the list. If you have a lot of money, you're going to be very effective in your campaign. Cool. These days, you can be very smart with tools like Programmatic and analyzing the data and targeting the right audience. So in fact, being able to target your audience is the most efficient way to have a very successful campaign. The other interesting factor is, what does programmatic bring to the table? Why is it going to make a difference in my business? And talking to people in Southern Europe, actually, the conclusion here is that the most important thing, 47%, is the ability to improve your targeting. That is the one factor that makes businesses grow and make a difference. So in Southern Europe, programmatic data is what is making marketeers and advertisers actually have a different view of their campaign strategies, which is quite interesting. In general, Europe agrees with this concept, but in Southern Europe was actually particularly higher on how they're using programmatic. So it's not necessarily about embracing the technology, but also say, well, now I can use this tool in order to make sense of that ocean of data and find my target, find my right users. So that's about the why, some elements of the why programmatic is relevant in the industry. So let's think about how this is being adopted, because I can tell you long stories about technology and how wonderful it is, but there is an adoption process that could be more or less painful, depending on where we are in the environment. So it's interesting to see in the study, and what you see in gray is Southern Europe, or you see in yellowish, it's the rest of Europe. There's no surprise here about media buying agencies, right? That normally front runners in terms of using tools to be able to buy smartly. What is interesting in this analysis is what's happening with the marketers. They are really running behind, and in Southern Europe alone, they only represent about 15% of the opportunity. Why is this important? This is an ecosystem. I mentioned before the importance of building those partnerships between sellers and buyers, because sellers have the inventory, they can help with the data, buyers can reach the user in a more effective way. If marketeers are not adopting all these tools right away, that is limiting growth. So as an industry community, we need to start thinking about these things and how we bridge that gap. So in AppNexus, for instance, is investing a lot of time and effort on educating the industry, sharing with the community knowledge. We partner with people like AAB, we run different educational sessions with our partners, et cetera, just to make sure that we spread the word and everybody feels comfortable with the new technology. Also, recently you may have read that we acquired a company called Alenti, has a solution around viewability. And why viewability is important? It helps the dialogue between agencies and advertisers that is more transparent. So why am I actually buying? How is that impacting my campaigns? How is it performing? How are you optimizing? So there's a lot of investments on the areas that we believe that are important to help the ecosystem adopt the technologies faster. And I'm happy to discuss with you later on other options as well on how we can bring all the players to the table. Okay. And the last graph that I have around this study is particularly around Southern Europe and why they are lagging behind in terms of adoptions. So the top reason affect everybody, right? Skill shortage is new technology. So where are the experts? How do you share the knowledge? How do you educate people to the extent that they can actually go and do their job very quickly? That takes time. Money, yeah, budgets, those are required for adoption. And that's pretty much standard. But what is interesting in Southern Europe is that organizations are slowing down because of internal resistance to change, which is pretty human as well, but maybe we can help a little bit there too. So in the last few minutes I have, I would love to leave you with a few thoughts about the future, how we see the market, where you see it going, and a couple of things that you can take away for your own businesses. Where is the market going? Obviously here to discuss this topic, so you all see the opportunities, a huge market. In 2017, it's estimated to be $74 billion globally versus $57 billion globally for search. So this play is actually predicted to grow faster than search. Shocking. But that's where apparently we're heading, which is really good news for all the tools that we are building as an industry. But programmatic is not the same answer for everybody. And the beauty of this type of technology is that can adapt to different types of negotiations, what we call marketplaces. The concept of marketplaces, for you not familiar with them in the context of programmatic, actually, is being defined by AIB. And what we're trying to do here is that show the diversity that you can get and run your different business models through programmatic display. So at the bottom of my diagram, I have performance marketplace. I'm sure that most of you are very familiar with it. And we're going to focus on optimizations and performance. It's based on CPC, CPA values. And in this particular type of transactions, the seller drives the conversation, naturally. Now, moving up into the options that we have in today, so RTB, pure RTB, what I described earlier before as that magic box that suddenly is filled by an advertising, that is a way to bring the buyer to the conversation. So it's based on CPMs, transactions, and allows the buyer to pick and choose based on the user that they need to target and the inventory that they're interested in. Adding more sophistication to the equation, we have what we call deals marketplace. Here is where actually we bring everybody to the same plain level field. So we have the buyer and the seller actually having an open, transparent dialogue. The seller is building those packages with data and information that is relevant for the buyer, and the buyer bids for access to that package. And finally, we have Programmatic Direct, which borrows from the traditional advertising mechanisms in terms of there's no RTB, but there is guaranteed forecasting and other tools that would allow you to be efficient, bring those efficiencies into the ecosystem as well. Obviously, programmatic is going to evolve and is evolving differently per market. We all agree that it's growing. You've all read the reports and seen the stats. But it's interesting to see what is happening country by country. And a lot is actually covered in the report I mentioned before in terms of what is holding people back and what needs to happen to close that gap. So look at the Netherlands and UK leading the way in 2017. This is the programmatic share of display estimated by 2017. And look where Spain sits at the moment, not too far from Germany though. And some of the things I mentioned before on adopting this technology is probably going to be holding them back for a few years to come. But we can change this. This is a prediction. So and to close, I'll leave you with a few thoughts. We talk about adoption, and knowledge is key here. So if you have to invest in something, invest in programmatic knowledge. Get your business, get your teams up to speed on how everything works and why is relevant, what we need to be there. Listen to the consumer, understand the market. If you don't do it, somebody else will. So go find that yellow duck. And finally, the power of partnerships. So buyers and sellers are here to build very strong businesses, so never underestimate the power of partnerships. And with that, thank you very much.